this video, we're going to look at multiplying and dividing rational expressions. So remember, when we multiply fractions, we multiply across the numerator and multiply across the denominator. You can do this and then simplify, or you can look for things to cancel, the common factors to cancel in a numerator and denominator, and then simplify. It's really up to you. I like to cancel first because it keeps the numbers small. So when I look at these, I'm going to look at my coefficients first. And so I can see that 6 over 2 is going to simplify to be 3. And I can see with 10 and 18, I can divide both of those by 2. So 10 becomes 5, 18 becomes 9. And then I can also see that 3 goes into 9. Those are both divisible by 3. So when I do that, I end up with a 3. And then I need to look at my x's. So in the numerator, I have an x squared, and in the denominator, I have an x squared. So those cancel out nicely. And then on this fraction, I'm left with an x squared, and I don't have any more x squareds left. Then I can look at the y's. I have a y cubed, and I have a y to the fourth. But notice in the denominator, I have y squared times y squared, which is going to be y to the fourth. So I'm actually going to cancel these two out with the y to the fourth. And now let's see what we have left. In the numerator, we have y to the third, and we have 5, and we have x cubed. And in the denominator, we only have a 3. So this would be our final answer for this one. Okay. Notice in the second example, we can factor these terms before we can cancel. So let's go ahead and do that on the next line. So we can factor out a 4x. I'm doing this numerator. And we get x minus 1 over, and then we'll do this denominator. We can factor out a 2. And that'll give us x squared plus 2x minus 3 times. And then we can factor this numerator, which is going to be x plus 3 and x minus 2. And then we can factor this denominator. First, let's factor out a 4x, which will give us x plus 2. Okay, and then this trinomial we can factor again. So this is actually going to become x plus 3 and x minus 1. Okay, now let's make sure we did all these right. 4x squared minus 4x. And then we have x squared times 2 plus 3 minus 1 is a plus 2x times 2. And then a minus 3 times 2 is a minus 6. X squared plus x minus 6 and 4x squared plus 8x. Okay, so that means that this factor, or this trinomial, is actually going to be replaced by the factors down below. Okay, so now we can look at what will cancel. So the 4 and the 2 will simplify. And we also have a 2 and a 4 here that we can simplify. And then we have x's that will cancel. We have an x minus 1 in the numerator and denominator, and we have an x plus 3 in the numerator and denominator. And so what we are left with, and yes, you could have factored the 4x and the 4x or canceled those. So what we have left is x minus 2 in the numerator, and we have 2 times x plus 2 in the denominator. Okay, let's look at dividing. So with the division of fractions, remember, division is the same as multiplying by the reciprocal. And so the first thing that we're going to do with these is rewrite this as a multiplication problem. And the reason I do that is because so many times we get into a hurry, or we kind of get into like that muscle memory and working through these problems, and we forget. And so I like to rewrite this as a multiplication problem first, and then it's just like the problems that we had before. Okay, so now we can look at canceling. There's nothing to factor, and so all these are monomials, so we can start canceling. So the 5 will go into 35 7 times. The 8 will go into 16 twice. I have q to the 5th here, and I have q squared. So we're going to make this a 3. Remember, we're subtracting when we divide. So 5 minus 2 is 3. So we have 3 left in the numerator. And here we have a p that we can cancel, and that will make that a 2. And again, lots of different ways that you could do this. As long as we all end up in the same final answer, that's what's important. So you might do your canceling a little differently than I do, or than someone else in the class does, and that's okay. So let's see what we have left, and then we can see if we missed anything. So in the numerator, I have a q and a q to the third. So that's going to be q to the fourth. In the denominator, I have 2 times 7, which is 14. And then I have p squared and p squared, which is also p to the fourth. I don't have any more common factors, so that would be my final answer. Okay, and then let's try one more division problem. Again, I'm going to rewrite this as multiplication before I do anything else, just so that I don't get busy with factoring and forget. Okay, a squared minus 4a minus 12. And then we're going to change division to multiplication, and then we're going to flip our fraction over. So the numerator is now going to be 8 squared minus 8a plus 15. And the denominator is going to be 24a squared minus 8a to the third. Okay, now we can start factoring. So in the numerator, I can factor out a 2a squared, and that will leave me with an a minus 6. In the denominator, I can factor this into, let's see, I'm going to do 6 and 2 because that subtracts to give me 4. So a minus 6 and a plus 2. Okay, and then on the next one, I'm going to factor these as well. This is going to be minus 5 and minus 3. And then in the denominator, I'm going to factor out an 8a squared, and that will leave me with 3 minus a. Okay, now let's see what we can cancel. So let's see, I have a 2 here and an 8 here, so this will reduce down to a 4. My a squareds will cancel. The a minus 6 will cancel. And I have an a minus 3 and a 3 minus a. So remember, those will cancel, but then I'm left with a negative. And so I'm going to go ahead and put that negative down here by the 4 so I don't forget it. Okay, the a minus 5 and the a plus 2 will not simplify. So I can go ahead down here. Sorry about that. I can go down here, and in the numerator, I have a minus 5. And in the denominator, I have this negative 4 times a plus 2. And that would be my final answer.